Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, The Nuts and Bolts to Starting a Glass Recycling Program in a Rural Area. My name is Mary Ann Ray Molador. I'm the Assistant Director of the Northeast Recycling Council, which is also known as NERC, and I'll be facilitating the webinar. We have two presenters from regional recycling centers in Maine who will share their experience of how they started and are implementing their glass recycling programs. Our presenters are Michael Berry, who is a board member and treasurer of the Unity Area Regional Recycling Center, and Ray Hebert, who is the supervisor of the North Aroostook Solid Waste Association's Regional Recycling Center in Eagle Lake, Maine. I have been working with both of these regional recycling centers with a grant from USDA to help them both source their end markets for their glass and to troubleshoot and provide technical assistance about the various stages of setting up their glass recycling programs. So I'm excited that both of them are able to join us today and to share their stories. And Michael, I'd like to ask you to start by telling us about what you all are doing at Unity.
Well, we have 8 member towns, and there's a population of 8,447 people in these 8 towns. And we were accepting glass, I'd say, until 2019, and our market or our vendor cut us off from shipping any more glass because of not necessarily our contamination, but contamination that they were getting in. And they just they shut everybody off. And we had some towns, 2 towns that threatened to pull out because they were upset that we weren't able to take glass. And we immediately started looking for ways to accept it. And when we found the glass crusher that we've purchased, we applied for a Maine DEP grant for just help with buying the machine. And since then, I mean, we started taking the glass March 1st of 2021. And since then, we've crushed 16 tons, and we've got another 1.5 tons just waiting to be crushed. They just haven't gotten to doing that crushing yet. But it's, our towns want to recycle as much product as they can. It's never a question of, how much return is on it. It's just wanting to recycle products. And I mean, all the products that we take, we don't charge anybody for any of the products at the facility. It's all done through taxation between the towns.
Michael, would you mind if I shared my screen and showed a picture of your facility?
Go right ahead. So in this picture, on the lower right-hand side, it's just below a fan, and that is the whole glass crusher. And it is a very small machine, and each piece has to get inserted one at a time. And the 1.5 tons that we have sitting on the floor right now that needs to be crushed, they felt was a 2-day process right now. But if you look at the lower right-hand picture, that is a picture of the sand. And as soon as it goes through the machine, you can literally filter it right through your hands, fingers. You can rub it on your hands. There is no sharp pieces to it whatsoever. mean, there's been a few small problems we've had with the machine, but most of it's just been wear and tear. And our distributor has worked with us very well to make it work, get us the parts.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about why you decided to crush instead of collecting whole bottles?
Oh, we didn't have any way to get rid of it. And the glass crusher just seemed the most space efficient way to be able to accept glass.
What's that crusher cost?
I want to say it was around $7,000 just for the crusher. And then we couldn't have gotten much further away from our electrical panels. I'd say with the purchase of the crusher, the fan, and the electrical, we were probably either side of $10,000.
Yeah. And that's one piece at a time.
That is one piece at a time.
Yeah.
Having to, they are hand loaded into the machine.
That's quite a bit of labor then, huh?
It is. And we are currently in the process of looking for a larger glass crusher, something that's going to be less labor intensive. This particular unit in the sales flyer, looking back, is hindsight's 2020, but this glass crusher is really intended for bars and wineries that,
Okay.
they're only handling a few bottles at a time. And bars and wineries in Maine wouldn't want to purchase this machine anyway because of our bottle bill.
Right. Oh, looking at John's notes here, if we go whole, it says it would take too much room, but that's what he'd like to have, is a crusher. But we're still trying to get the public to recycle glass. There's not too much of it right now, but we could have some better signing and all that, and better storage containers, and to get started. The people that bring some in, all their glass is clean, which is great, but we need more advertisement up there at the transfer station.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's just getting the word out, and I didn't realize it until talking with Mary Ann, but I've always lived in this area. We live in a very unique area where everybody just wants to recycle. When towns are getting upset because we stopped accepting certain products, but we didn't just stop accepting them because we didn't want to. When the market gets cut off, there isn't a whole lot you can do about it. And when your facility is only so large, it's not like we can sit on. When we have 2 trailer loads of baled product sitting on the floor, things are starting to get tight. So to sit on a product for an undetermined amount of time, it's not doable. We don't have any outside storage, so our towns want to recycle as much as we can. I mean, we recycle all forms of batteries, light bulbs, any type of light bulb, electronics.
Fluorescent bulb?
Fluorescent, yes, fluorescent bulbs.
Really?
Yep. And we work with a company named Veolia, and they ship us boxes for free.
Well, I get the boxes too, but yeah.
We don't charge people at the facility so that we're not The thought is the lower, if people who might want to recycle don't have enough money, are we going to spend $15 to get rid of a computer monitor versus putting it in the trash? And we want to encourage people to recycle as much as they can. So we don't charge any of our resident members for any product. It's just whatever our budget is minus our sales credit, and our sales credit's what we get throughout the year for product we've mailed. And we subtract that from the budget, and if we had, say, an $84,447 budget, each member in each town would essentially pay $1.
Wow. The thing is about the glass is we used to throw it in the trash.
Right.
There's a lot of weight we're trying to save collecting the glass. Well, our tonnage.
Yes, I mean, we have a spot out behind our facility that we're looking to dump the glass so that we can create a level pad or a flat pad before we add gravel to it. And we just haven't started that process yet. We have 16 pallets of crushed glass, and each pallet has 4 barrels on it.
Yeah. We're trying to build a little concrete bay to put the glass in.
Right.
And a covered tarp over it. That was one of our plans, but it hasn't happened yet. But the money's kind of tight here, so we'll wait and see what happens.
Michael,
Right.
can you talk about your end markets for the glass?
Well, one of the avenues we've tried going through is there's a company that's building a facility in Maine. They want to use glass for insulating and for boxes for lithium batteries, so that if there was a lithium battery leak, that the glass would extinguish the fire.
So it's a fire suppression box.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we've had some contact with them. We've sent them a couple samples, but we haven't heard anything, whether it's been staffing changeovers or just people on vacation. We're not sure exactly why we haven't heard back from them.
Right. How long ago did you send that presentation?
Oh, we sent one sample probably in April or May of last year, and then we sent another one September, October of last year as well.
And no response yet?
No response. We've got some people who have talked that they want to try to use the glass in lieu of it, added the glass to sand for when they sand the roads during the wintertime, or use it as a fill for
What would
on
glass
culverts.
what would glass do of sanding a road?
I don't know that it's going to do anything. It just makes the sand go further.
Okay.
I don't know that I don't know exactly what it's going to do.
Yeah. Well, around here, they don't use sand anymore. It's salt and calcium.
The state around here, only the state uses pure salt, and the towns usually do a sand salt mix.
Yeah. Sometimes we do. I used to work for the state. We did use sand salt mix for quite a while. But about 15, 16 years ago, we went mainly to salt. Then after a while, they added the calcium to it. But I don't know where the glass would help that.
Yeah, I don't see where it would be good for sanding roads, but as far as if you're installing a culvert and you needed, fill, I see it being good for that. One of our employees took some sand home and he filled holes, and through the winter, he said the glass doesn't hold water and therefore it didn't freeze. So he was able to move the glass around if he wanted to during the winter.
Yeah. It might be good to mix it with asphalt when they pave.
Well, that would be a great spot to put it. It's just convincing other companies to use it.
Yeah. Well, as far as John's notes, let's see.
Go ahead, Ray. Why don't you tell us about what's happening at your recycling center,
About what?
the glass recycling?
Oh, right now we got a few, maybe a dozen people bringing some in. Not much. I probably got a ton and a half there in barrels. But they get so mixed up, people don't know where to put it, so we gotta help them out all the time. I need some better containers with bigger signs to put on the barrels, so where the stuff goes, like plastic, glass, cardboard and all that. But he's got some little signs here. He laminates them, but they're not big enough. Is there any way you can help us out with signs?
Yeah, we actually did provide you all with a A-frame sign, and the A-frame itself. So you should have that. And we did provide the designs for signs to John, which can be used.
Good. Last time you were here, you asked me to move a sign for the glass. I moved that and they helped a little bit, but the sign's not quite big enough.
Yeah. So John, Ray, put it into perspective a little bit. How many towns do you all serve and about how many residents?
We have 5 towns and the population of those towns is during the winter is 2,000, about 2,125. In the summer, more out of staters come in, we got about 2,500.
So, and I can tell everyone that the Eagle Lake area feels, even when you're driving through it, it's an extremely rural part of Maine, right?
Yeah.
We're close to the Canadian border.
Right.
You see more trees than anything, where it's different than Michael's area, which is more populated. So just to put that, and NASWA's recycling program is relatively new.
Yes.
So how long have you been operating the facility now, Ray?
9 years.
You've been operating for 9 years. And when did you start?
Myself, yes.
Mm-hmm. And when did you start collecting glass?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And now you have 12 people bringing in glass.
Yes.
So do people have other ways of recycling or taking care of their trash rather than coming into your facility?
No, but they put everything in black bags and everything goes in the household garbage.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we need to educate the public and see what we can do a little further on here.
Mm-hmm. So, and why do you think people were interested in having the glass recycling at your facility?
People weren't even thinking about that till John started it.
Mm-hmm.
And the containers we have, when we mentioned the glass, some people throw some in anyway in the regular trash. And we're still trying to advertise a little bit more. But like I say, we need better signing and just one spot for glass, one spot for something else and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We're really just starting.
Right. So some of the ways that we had worked with these two regional recycling facilities to get the word out is by writing a press release for both centers, and that getting distributed, but also reaching out to a radio station within the state who, by chance, I found one that was interested in talking about glass recycling. And she did feature stories about both of these areas. Another idea that came out for NASWA with John, who is Ray's boss, he's the town manager for Eagle Lake. He had an idea of offering a lottery ticket to every resident who would bring in glass as a way to entice people to start recycling the product.
Yes,
Michael,
that's
I'm
true.
just wondering if you had any other strategies or ways to entice people to bring in the glass when they come in.
Not off the top of my head, it's, I mean, for us, it was, people were itching, you know, when we got our 1s, 3s through 7 plastics cut off, we encouraged people to go to glass because at the time we were able to get rid of the glass. So when we started taking plastic, you know, I don't know that people switched off from glass, but it was just, everybody wants to recycle it. And we were telling people for a while that we are working on getting glass back. And we had, even when we we couldn't accept the plastics, we had people that if they had the space, they were saving all those products, the 1s, 3s through 7s on their own, so that if and when we did start accepting again, they were able to bring it in, and we were looking at 1 to 3 years worth of their plastics.
Mm-hmm.
And
we gotta educate the public that's around here. Most people that are recycling, they're out of staters because they're used to it.
well,
And now we gotta train this population of around here, the public here, to do the same.
you may want to go to the schools and start a recycling program in the school so that the kids go home and, you know, they're talking about the recycling program.
Yes. I got all this down, what you're saying here, but that'll be mentioned to John and see what he says, and probably go press relief on the radio and the schools and see what we can do.
Mm-hmm. So one of the points to collecting glass is knowing who your end markets are, right? So Michael talked a lot about this company who is able to use crushed glass, who is would be considered a local market, as well as the possibility of area contractors using the glass for fill. And Michael, I don't know if you mentioned it about MAFCA or not, but can you talk about that a little bit?
In regards to
Their interest in the possibility of using the glass for fill on their organic farms?
well, MOFGA, Maine Organic Farmers Gardeners Association, they have talked about possibly wanting some of our crushed glass just for fill on their property so that they're not having to, you know, purchase other dirts, you know, just it's reusing something that's available and helping to reduce their carbon footprint.
You use that for fill, but you have to put a little gravel over it, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, if you know, when they have over 60,000 people coming out to the fair, and if they have holes holes on the property, they can fill the hole mostly with some crushed glass, and they'd be able to throw some topsoil over the top for the grass to grow.
Now, and the DEP doesn't mind that, or?
It's considered inert fill, so there's no problem there. There essentially is no problem with it.
Good. That's a good idea, though.
So
Well, it's
one-
not inert fill, it's considered an inert matter. So it's, you're not as concerned with silica dust. You're
Right,
not concerned with it.
yeah. Well, that sounds good. A lot of good ideas here. I'll mention to John.
So one of the things that we've talked about it with the NASWA's program is that since they're close to the Canadian border and there are manufacturers using recycled glass in Canada, we've identified 2 potential companies for them to possibly ship their glass to. Some of the concerns around shipping whole bottles or broken bottles is the cost of transportation.
Yes,
So, so you have to weigh the benefits of the avoided waste cost compared to the cost of transportation. And the cost of waste, if the glass doesn't have a lot of contaminants, meaning plastics or metals, they want it, caps off, corks out kind of thing. If they get clean glass, the cost for shipping would be less than a landfill tipping fee.
right.
But if it is rejected once it arrives at one of those facilities, the cost to dispose of that load will be charged to the town. So it's just, there's a great need for keeping the glass clean at all stages when we're talking about an end manufacturer, a manufacturer creating new products from it, like glass containers or fiberglass. So the glass containers and fiberglass end markets are available through these outlets in Canada. So that's why it made sense when we were initially talking with NASWA for them to collect whole bottles or broken glass from containers
Now,
for
we
those
still have to pay
markets.
for the shipping, right?
Right, because the shipping costs are less for you. Now, where Michael is, he's further down in the state. So that's why he's further away from those markets. And that at the time we initially were talking, that didn't seem to make much sense, where the crushed glass and this new company coming in seemed to be the better way to go. So I
Yeah.
point that out because in the chat, there's been a lot of back and forth about end markets. And that was one of our first discussion points held with both of these groups, is what would be potential end markets. So that requires, first of all, we went on to Glass Packaging Institute's website. They have a map of the US and Canada, and it shows the various glass processors and manufacturers locations on those maps. So you can see the proximity to where you're located. We also explored the possibility of using the NRRAs. It's a New Hampshire nonprofit who is collecting they've managed a collection program in a sense where they work with towns in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont to have the towns collect clean glass. And then there's other glass. So the clean glass is they have aggregation points, and then they send that glass up to Canada for processing to go to a manufacturer. The other glass has plate glass and ceramics mixed in, and that gets used for a processed glass aggregate program. So we looked at all these various options for these two areas. And that's kind of where you have to start it, by looking at your end markets. The tricky part is the end markets changes, right? So a facility that may have been accepting crushed glass may now only be accepting whole glass or broken glass. So you've got to keep in communication with all of these end markets.
Yeah.
It also affects decision making around buying equipment that you might use, like the crusher. When
Yeah.
Michael's group bought that crusher machine, it seemed like it would work, but I think that they've become so successful at getting a lot of volume of glass, they've outgrown the machine much quicker than they thought that they would, which is a great thing, but it also places a burden on them now to figure out how to move to the next step. So it's definitely a moving target. It's not something that you figure out today and the answers are going to be the same a couple months from now or a year from now. It's something that you have to work at continuously. And I'll stop talking there and see if Michael or Ray want to add anything to that.
Now, shipping whole wouldn't be any good for us. We gotta pay the freight, you know.
Yep.
He needs to buy a crusher or something.
Well, and Michael and I were talking too, because the companies who are processing the glass for end manufacturers want a full truckload. So that's 32 tons. Now
Yeah.
that's either 32 tons of crushed glass or 32 tons of whole glass. So it's the same amount for the shipping, but you can get more glass. Well, I don't know how many bottles goes into 32 tons of crushed glass. Michael, do you know that?
No, I do not.
I don't
Oh.
either.
Yeah, so that obviously the whole bottles take up more space, and also create an issue with storage, right? Until you get that 32 tons. Now, in some states, they may have local outlets for smaller amounts of glass. In Maine, unfortunately, in the locations where these two facilities are at, their only options are for the larger amounts of glass. If they were located closer to Portland, Maine, there's a materials recovery facility who would accept whole bottle glass and possibly crushed glass. But you have to be close enough to that facility to have it make sense.
Yes.
In our facility, we also offer non-resident memberships, and we have people that drive as far as 2 hours away. They pay $30 a year and drive 2 hours just to use our facility.
Because you
And-
take so much.
Because we accept so much product.
Mhm.
You know, when it's coming, I understand it costs money for recycling, but it also costs money to get rid of your solid waste. And if you can make something new or just use it one more time, it seems that it would make much more sense to use it again versus just throwing it in a landfill
Yeah,
and leaving it for someone else.
right. Well,
So-
okay, I'll be talking with John and.
So I wanted to go through some of the questions that have come through the chat, and please keep posting your questions. There was a lot of questions around the glass crusher, and Michael, do you know how long it takes to crush a bottle?
Just a couple seconds. In our machine, it just takes a couple seconds. It drops in, and as the machine's turned on, it's right up to speed and just just a matter of in a moment's time, and that they're probably crushing one bottle every 5 to 6 seconds as far as putting the glass in and letting the machine come right back up to speed before they're putting a second bottle in.
So you can't just throw in as fast as you want because it's gonna stop.
Correct. It slows down
Yeah.
and it can clog the machine.
So
Clog. Yeah.
I'm just going to point out, see where I have my cursor on the screen, where this gentleman's hand is, that is the chute where you put the bottle in. And then
Yeah.
it goes down into here, crushes, and then enters the bucket at the bottom.
Right.
One thing I do want to just mention is that the machine does create a puff of powder smoke, I call it. I don't know how a
Oh, it
dust,
does. Huh?
yeah, per bottle. So that's the reason for the fan, because you don't want staff to be breathing in any of the silica dust.
No, that's
Well,
pretty
I
bad.
don't know that it's a silica dust, but it's any type of glass dust. I wouldn't want to necessarily be breathing it in.
Yeah,
No.
thank you, Michael, for clarifying that. And if you notice, their staff is using he's got both a face shield plus a mask on to make sure that he's not breathing in any of that dust. Plus his ear protection, and he's got glasses on as well. So he's well equipped, and the cut-proof gloves. He's well equipped for running this machine. The other thing I was so impressed by was his record keeping. So if you see this clipboard up here, he keeps a log of how many bottles he's crushing and for how many hours he has been using the machine, so that he can estimate when he might need to replace items on the machine or when he can expect to do something else. Michael, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we felt that some of these screens weren't lasting like they said they were supposed to. So we've kept track. Our last screen of the original type, we kept track of how many bottles we put through, so that when they sent us a thicker screen that was supposed to last longer, and they're currently keeping track of how many bottles they're putting through that screen, so that we can give them some feedback as to whether or not it lasts longer.
Yeah. As far as that silica, I wouldn't want to breathe that in either. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much that it's silica, but it is still glass, and to have glass.
Right. It's probably worked like asbestos on the lungs.
Well, and I want to mention that NRRA's program, they do all their glass crushing outside, completely outside,
Yeah.
away from any residents, to make sure that the staff and people in the area are not breathing in that dust as they are crushing the glass. Can you talk about the labels, Michael? Is that a concern at all?
We have no concern over the labels. The only thing we require is that it's clean, and you take the lid off, any rings off, and no cork. So we only put glass through this machine.
Now that's what we've been doing, though. The lids are off and everything.
Mm-hmm. So there is no, other than the crushed glass that comes out of your machine, there
Right.
is no other residue that comes out. That's
Right.
it.
Not recognizable. I mean, the glue that's on the glass from the label, and the label is in there, but there are ways to separate that. This particular manufacturer, I know they have a sorting machine that will do different grades of sorting, and I'm not sure that it takes out the paper or not, but I suspect it does.
Yeah. They must, because the paper's staying on there as far as what we're doing.
Well, I also, I can't remember her name. You had me in a meeting with her. She was from Oregon or Washington State.
Yes, Suzanne. Mhm.
I believe that they have a slightly larger unit than what we have from the same manufacturer. And I believe they require their people to remove the labels and clean the glue off as well.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Yep. But they don't do it at a town level. They do it. It's, I don't know that you'd call it a club, but it's more of a club service than a municipality doing it.
Yeah. Well, as far as the budget goes here, we'd have to do that on working hours, and there's no way we can do that. We're busy with everything else. And
Right,
John's budget is small, and I don't think he'd let us put in hours to do that.
No, it's required. The label removal is required before the product is dropped off. It's not the glass crushers that are doing the cleaning. It's if you want to use our program, you have to have it clean, or they don't accept it. And regular people don't just drop off the bottles at their facility. They have what they call glass ambassadors, and you have to contact an ambassador to have your glass picked up.
Okay.
I'm just going through the questions here. One is, someone asked if Maine is a bottle bill state and what happens to that glass compared to the glass collected at municipal programs. Do either one of you want to take a stab at that?
Nah, I don't know.
I wouldn't even begin to dare to say where the glass goes.
Yeah. So yes, Maine is a bottle bill state. I know a little bit about it. There are companies that deal only with bottle bill glass. So they literally are operating the reverse vending machines or the glass from redemption centers they pick up. Their glass is considered the cleanest glass because it never touches any other glass materials because they are being collected completely separate from everything else. And they go directly to beneficiators to clean it up and to get it into a form that manufacturers can use, and then they send it off. As soon as glass goes to any recycling market, recycling facility, or a transfer station, as what exists in these two regions in Maine, it gets a bad reputation, even if it is separated, and even only if clean containers are accepted without the caps and the lids on them, to the point where the same companies dealing with bottle bill glass will not deal with the glass coming from these facilities. So it makes it a lot harder for the facilities to deal with the glass on their own.
Well, it sounds like we're too far from anything. We'd have to pay shipping.
Yep, and that's why NASWA's outlet, Ray, is most, I would say, advantageous outlet is up in Canada.
Yeah.
So you really have,
you know what part of Canada?
yeah. There's a company that accepts separated glass, source separated glass from transfer stations in Moncton. And then there is also a beneficiator in Montreal who also has a facility in Hopedale, Mass.
What's the name of the second one?
2M Resources.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you, Ray, because I'm not sure you mentioned it. How does the glass recycling program get paid for? Is it through the tax base, or how do residents pay for that service?
How do the residents pay?
Pay
Taxes.
through the taxes also. Okay.
Yep. I have no more questions.
Yeah. Well, we have 15 minutes left for this discussion. I think this is, we have a lot of people on the line who are very interested in glass recycling. And we have our two presenters today who have shared their stories about their experience with collecting glass and working with the public, getting the word out, educating residents as they come into the facility, and especially with minimal staff to try and direct them to recycle the glass in the right location and to make sure the containers are clean, and really provide the viewpoint of what it takes to recycle glass in rural areas where markets are few, and their decision-making process around what form of glass they are going to recycle and how they're going to handle all that. Just checking our questions one last time.
No
Michael,
question.
you said you collect the fluorescent bulbs, and what happens to those?
We receive boxes by either FedEx or UPS, and we have to, there's specific boxes for each type of bulb. And there is a packaging process. They're in at least one plastic bag, and it has to be taped off properly.
And what company are you sending them to?
Veolia.
Veolia. Okay.
We just had a business from Waterville, which is about 20 miles from us. They want to bring us close to 300 fluorescent tanning bed bulbs.
This is what we're doing now. We're boxing them with the plastic and sealing them and taping the ends, and then UPS picks them up.
And where do you send them?
They go down out of state somewhere.
And what are you all doing with plate glass?
We're not doing anything with plate glass.
Are you?
No, we're throwing it away.
So you're not using it for processed glass aggregate?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's just.
It just goes in the regular garbage, but you got to break it up.
Oh, here's a question. Do you know how much the tonnage of your municipal solid waste stream has been reduced as a result of your glass recycling efforts?
Not off the top. I don't know.
I couldn't answer that because John keeps track of that. I couldn't answer that.
Okay. And how about you, Michael?
I don't know the answer to that. I haven't done sometimes the town office takes care of the solid waste report. I've done it a couple times, and I'm not exactly certain if it's even been noticeable.
But you did say that you have 1.5 tons waiting to be crushed. And how many tons you've already crushed?
We've crushed 16 tons.
And Ray, what would you estimate the amount of glass that you've diverted so far?
About 2 ton, 2.5 ton.
Okay. So we could, and what is your MSW tipping fee for both of your areas?
I wouldn't even begin to know.
No, the trash fee, you don't,
No, I don't. I haven't gotten into that part. The selectmen and the town office deal with that side, and I only deal with the recycling center.
okay. And how about you, Ray? Do you know for for Eagle Lake area, what the cost of trash per ton is?
I don't know the cost of trash per ton, but I know for hauling is $550 a load.
Just for the hauling?
Yep.
Mhm.
And we started collecting glass. I see John's notes here 12 months ago, he says.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I believe, unless I see any other questions that haven't, I believe we've gone through all of the questions that have come in. I see a lot of people who are on this webinar have answered some of the questions, so we didn't have a need to go through it again. But we'll just give it another few seconds to see if anybody has any last minute questions before we stop.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get John, he's been mentioning it, but it hasn't happened, to get some scratch tickets for the people bringing that in. I'm gonna mention that back to him.
Yeah,
See
I
how
think
that works.
to see, yeah, we were thinking something to entice people.
Right.
You know, something to entice people. Yeah, get them out of their houses. And when we were talking, John thought a lottery ticket might do it.
Yes. We'll see what happens, but I think they have to have a little amount before we give them a lottery ticket.
Yeah, right. You can decide that one.
Not one jar.
So a question came in: are there funds available for private companies that can divert significant amounts of glass from the waste stream? I'm not sure if Maine DEPs, I mean, it would depend on what state you're in. Some states definitely have what are called recycling market development grants. Other states don't. For this project in Maine, both of these regions have gotten grants from the state. I don't know if they are applicable for businesses, though. Do you know? Do either one of you know?
No.
I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah, and Megan Pryor, I don't know if you're on the webinar still, but if you are, if you could unmute yourself and just let us know if that's applicable for Maine. And so Megan may not be still on, but we have some people put Massachusetts has funds, Minnesota has grant funds. So it would be worth it, whether you are a municipality or a business, to contact the environmental agency within your state to find out if funds exist to help you further develop or to develop glass recycling programs. Nebraska is another state that has grant funds. I know Pennsylvania has a recycling market center. They may have access to funds as well. So it just takes a little bit of research to find that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see
All
what we
right.
can do here.
Well, I think we have come to the end of our webinar. I want to thank both Ray and Michael for sharing your experiences with us, and thank everyone who has been on the webinar. We will be, the recording will be available probably by tomorrow, but I will email everyone to let you know what the link is to that. And I thank you all for participating in today's webinar and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All righty,
Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you.
sure.